Thanks for waiting as we were running a little over.
No worries.
Are we good on sound? Do we need mics? Can you hear us okay in there? For video? Yeah? Okay.
Can you turn off the video so it's not projecting?
I'm looking into that one.
Yeah, he's doing the projector thing. So, first question. Who are you? And where do you work for? What do you do? Why would you have an opinion on UA that folks here might find helpful?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Brian Jacobs. I work for GrowMobile. We're a mobile DSP, basically a media buying platform for application developers with a full suite of analytics that sort of sit behind the buying platform. Really serves as an optimization engine for our team to optimize campaigns ROI positively for our advertisers. I work with a ton of different game developers and brand developers helping market their mobile applications. So we see all sort of walks of developers, and I work with a ton of different traffic sources, and I focus a lot on our ad operations and just figuring out ways to scale campaigns and helping make developers money.
Awesome. And you guys just got acquired 2 months ago?
Exactly, yeah. We got acquired by an Israeli company called Purion Networks.
Awesome. Cool. You guys may remember AJ from our talk, I believe it was last year, who's the CEO of GrowMobile. So glad you guys could be here.
Sure.
Hey, James.
Yeah, my name is James Peng. I'm the head of user acquisition and monetization at Storm8. And Storm8 is we are iOS and Android app developer. We have about more than 40 games on both platforms, and then we have over 50 million monthly active users, and we were a top 12 mobile app publisher in last year based on revenue.
Awesome. An interesting thing about Storm8 as a company is never raised money, right?
Yeah, we're totally bootstrapped all the way.
Yeah.
We still have not raised any money to date. So
Awesome.
we're sort of, I can sort of sympathize with some of the developers that don't want to spend a lot of money, because we sort of react in the same way and to the changes in the market, and we run our user acquisition platform on a very ROI positive, sustainable basis.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so that brings me to the first question. Is rising CPI making it impossible to succeed without large budgets?
Sure. I certainly don't think it's impossible. I think it's definitely making it a bit more difficult for a smaller developer that doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. I think it's becoming increasingly important to build a very polished, fleshed out game, and I'd have some categories in mind if I was recommending a category for a smaller developer to get into. That might give them a chance early on to build some revenue under their belts and kind of build a base that they might be able to piggyback another game on. Call it starting with a casual game, maybe migrating into more of maybe a saturated category such as like a mid-core casino title. But so I'd say that, and then additionally, it's you can certainly still buy installs on a small scale and build some critical mass in an ROI positive manner. So. Yes, it's more difficult, but it's certainly not impossible. And we, at GrowMobile, we see developers break through, very frequently. It's not uncommon.
Okay.
I'll echo some of those thoughts. I mean, it's definitely, I would say the short answer is yes, it is a little more difficult. But what it really means is that sort of the cover charge or the entry fee is higher, but you just have to get smarter about it. So what I've seen is that prices have risen. And I am paying more per user, but what's also happening is my ROI is also rising, because I can pay more for the users and the users and impressions that are available to me, but I can also sort of eliminate or pay less for the ones that aren't. And so what I see that is really, really important these days is you need to understand who your users are and what your product is, and that's super key. And there's a lot of tools these days that are making that a lot easier, such as channels like Facebook, Twitter, etc., that help you to target exactly who you want. So the key really is to sort of maximize the value of every single impression that you show out there, because in the past, I think a year ago or a couple years ago, it was a lot easier just to buy volume and just expect that to back up for you. But these days, you really have to maximize every single sort of view that you get. So what you need to do is need to understand sort of the end user. Understand sort of your product and how you're going to communicate that to them, and sort of connect these things together.
Awesome. So this might be a variation for that question. I actually just got this over Twitter. Given the open bidding of most ad networks, how can you not end up paying what the biggest fool is willing to spend? And Mike, if you want to jump in on that, feel free
I guess
to.
on open bidding, you're talking about through like open exchanges or just
Facebook.
I think the idea of open bidding, like anyone can bid to raise a price up for the user, right? So everyone's bidding on an equal sort of platform.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thought on that is it just really depends. So on Facebook, it's again one site. When you look at a network, you look at a bunch of different sites. So you might have the largest fool or whatever you call them, bidding up one specific site or one specific category, but there's other pockets of inventory that can work really well. So it just really depends. I mean, definitely if there are really there are a lot of people with really deep pockets, they're gonna cause the price of the market to go up. But there are ways around that, and there are other sort of channels or pockets of inventory that would really make sense. And so, as James said, it's just like being smart about where you're spending to make sure that you're getting the right, and you're not trying to compete with those really large bidders.
And also about like what category of games you go into, right? So if you're going to match 3 games right now, that's very expensive users, right? You had some thoughts on categories that you think are emerging that would be where there's not a lot of people competing?
Sure, yeah, I mean, I guess to preface this, what James was mentioning, not all impressions are created equal, and I certainly don't think that you're stealing somebody else's install. I mean, of course, there are a lot of developers that are going to be going after this particular subset of users, but I mean, just in general, from what we see, I'd say mid-core and casino, like I mentioned, are pretty competitive. We see a real big long tail, and where a small handful of games are sort of taking the lion's share of a lot of the revenue that exists in those categories. I think that some of the categories that, especially for a smaller indie developer, that have a real good shot at, a lot of virality are some of the casual titles. So you look at even the top charts, the top 3 charts right now, it's the Dots games and Flappy Birds. That's probably a one-off example, but they're much easier. They're wide appeal. They're much easier to crank up the charts, and even down the line when you're looking to buy, ROI positively ongoing. They're just easier to market. The CPIs are lower, the CTRs are higher, the conversion rates are higher. So if it was me going out, I think I want to start with a more casual game just to give myself some ability to build a big user base and give it a good shot.
I'll try to touch on a couple of those things. The first thing I was mentioned is how do you sort of survive, and how do you react to this open bidding thing? And first of all, I may not understand that question correctly, but a lot of platforms are sort of opening up to RTB and opening up to exchanges, and they're starting to allow bidding across multiple channels just because they're opening up supply side. Everyone's constrained on supply, and so the way to sort of succeed and be smart about that is have a really good analytics infrastructure and be able to eliminate sources that don't work for you ASAP. Because the supply side, they can only optimize their side. All they know is how to increase the click to install ratio, and sort of that as much data as you give them. But it's your role to sort of optimize for value and kill out the ones that just are not returning money for you ASAP. And so the second part of that question, how do you determine what categories to pursue? I would say, obviously you don't want to do things that are sort of overpopulated. I think it's really hard. That's a really hard question because I think the leaders in every single category change year after year. And I would say that just because there's a lot of players in one doesn't mean that you can't come in and just crush it. Can you crush it? But even that, like, I don't even know how long that's going to stay around. Candy Crush is big for the past couple years, but
Jewel was around for a long time before it, right?
In various forms, right?
But Jewel is in different forms,
right.
Not always on.
But I would say even those 2 subcategories, like Jewel and Candy, I would say those are 2 subcategories that you could beat out, because I would say when I compete in those 2 categories, the CTRs are very different when I compete in like a Candy game versus a Jewel game. You can beat them at their own game if you're good enough, if your creative is good enough and your product is good enough. So I would say yes, you have to worry about that, but
so creative product and what user base you have, right?
Yeah,
because if you have the right demo for that type of game, yes. But if there's a 2-person shop like some of the guys here who maybe have a demo for a completely different type of game, is that a good use of their time and money to actually try and compete in that market?
I would say that's tough because you don't understand that market. You don't understand the one that you have data on. I would say if you can leverage that to try to get some insights, then great. If you are really good at one thing, then continue doing that. If you're winning, then keep winning. I would say like right now, given the current sort of U.S. and domestic landscape, there's sort of a disproportionate casual versus mid-core. Mid-core is very dominant in the Eastern world, so I would say there's definitely a lot of room here, in the sort of mid-core hardcore sector, specifically in the U.S.